Good day, students. You are welcome to today's class, and I will be your biology teacher. The topic is estuarine habitat under aquatic habitat. Aquatic habitat has three major types, namely marine habitat, estuarine habitat, and freshwater habitat. We have earlier discussed marine habitats. Now we will be looking at estuarine habitat. Lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to 1. State the characteristics of estuarine habitat. 2. List the types of estuarine. 3. Explain the distribution of the plants and animals in estuarine habitat and describe the adaptive features of plants and animals in estuarine habitat. Before we proceed, I would like the students to explain what you understand by aquatic habitat. Then, what are the characteristics of marine habitat? Thank you. Now, characteristics of estuarine habitat. An estuarine habitat is ecological zone where river and seawater meet. A point where river water, which is fresh water, and seawater, which is salt water, meet. This tries to explain or establish brackish conditions. Brackish water has a salinity which fluctuates with the tides and the season. That is the wet and dry seasons. It is neither salt water nor fresh water, but the intermediary between both, which means it occurs where fresh water interacts with salt water. So when we're looking at the estuarine habitat, we can say is a mixture or is a place or a junction where seawater meets with fresh water, salt water meets with freshwater habitat. Now let's look at the characteristics of estuarine habitat. Some characteristics of estuarine habitat include 1. It has a fluctuating salinity, because the salinity of the estuarine depends on the tidal action and the sea and the season of the day. 2. It has poor aerated substratum or saturated soil that lack oxygen. 3. There is mild wave action. The action that occurs there, the wave action that occurs there is mild. 4. There is high and low tidal influence. 5. Soil erosion is prominent to estuarine habitat. Lastly, which is number 6, it is exposed and prone to flood periodically. It is prone to flood periodically, once a while. Now let us evaluate ourselves a little on what we have discussed so far. Students, define estuarine habitat. Tell us what estuarine habitat is. 2. I would like you to outline 3 characteristics of estuarine habitat. At least 3 characteristics of estuarine habitat. Types of estuarine habitat. We have marshes, we have deltas, we have lagoons, we have bay, and we have swamp. So there are 5 types of estuarine habitats. Look at them one after the other. You have to look at them one after the other. Marshes. Marshes is a brackish water. It's usually found in intertidal areas, which are periodically flooded and drained by the tides. We shall continue from here after break. Thank you. You are welcome back. Now let's look at number 2, delta. This is where a river divides into many channels before entering into ocean or sea. It is formed at the mouth of a river as it enters the sea. So when you have a small portion of water like river divides into many channels before entering into ocean or sea, we call it delta. Number 3, lagoon. A body of ocean water that enters into the land through a canal, therefore has the opportunity of mixing with fresh water. There is called lagoon. And you have a body of big water that has the opportunity to get to mix with fresh water, then we call it lagoon. Then the 4th one is bay. Bay is a small body of water which enters into land and mix up with the fresh water from rivers and streams. So we have a small body of water, like a small portion of the seawater that enter into land and mix with that fresh water there. We call it bay. Then the 5th one is swamp. A swamp is wetland. It's vegetation. And you're looking at it, we think that it's a land habitat, but it's a wetland with vegetation found in temperate and tropical regions. So brackish water marsh is usually found along coastal areas or intertidal areas which are periodically flooded and drained by the tides. Now students, can you mention at least 3 types of estuarine and explain? Mention at least 3 types of estuarine and explain. Thank you. Now let's continue. Types of estuarine based on salt mixing. Types of estuarine based on salt mixing. There are 3 types. We have the following under this category. A, salt wedge estuarine. B, vertically homogeneous estuarine. C, partially mixed estuarine. Take a look at this diagram. This diagram illustrates the 3 main types of estuarine mixing: tides, wind, wave motions, and river runoff. All contribute to create various water conditions within estuaries. Salt wedge estuaries, such as the Mississippi Delta, exist where the river current exceeds the tidal current. Then equal river and tidal currents, such as those in the Chesapeake Bay, create a partially mixed estuarine, which is the second mixing type. Then, where the tidal range exceeds the freshwater inflow, as in the Bay of Fundy, mixing is more complete and a vertically homogeneous estuarine is created. So when you have it is what creates them depends on the tides, the wind, the wave motion, and the river runoff that occur among them. So we have those ones based on the salt mixing available in the environment. Now let's look at the distribution of organisms in an estuary. We are going to look at plants. Under plants, we have red mangrove. We have Rhizophora species, which is the main species of flowering plants in the lagoon. And you are looking at the flowering plants in the lagoon. We talk about red mangrove and Rhizophora species. Then the second one is white mangrove and Avicennia species. This one occurs in area of high salinity and dry land than the red plants. So we have white mangrove in those areas that have high salinity. Avicennia species, they are common in that area. We shall continue after break. You are welcome back. Another examples of plants found in estuarine is plankton. Plankton are microscopic plants, plankton protists such as diatom and filamentous algae. The farm plants are also found in the estuarine. Examples of that farm plant is acrostichumarium. So then can you pronounce that? Acrostichumarium. The only fern able to withstand salt water. That is the only fern plant that is able to withstand salt water. So they are found in the estuarine. They grow in this habitat. Then we also have numerous grasses like Paspalum species. Now, let's look at the examples of animals that are found in estuarine. We have invertebrates, we have birds, and we have mammals. Examples of invertebrates, we have methane crab, starfish, arenicola, mud skipper, lancelet, barnacles. Those are the examples of invertebrates. These animals are commonly found in the estuarine or lagoon because they can withstand salinity variation. They include the bloody clam, common lagoon crab, hermit crab, the hairy mangrove crab, the fiddler crab, cichlid, the prawns, Ethmalosa, herrings, and the grey mullet. All these are examples of the animals that are found in estuarine. Then another group of animals are birds. Examples of birds that can be found here include herons, waders, and palm nut vulture. Those are the birds that you can see at the estuarine. Then mammals, we have mammals like bats and monkeys. Bats and monkeys. Now, let's look at the adaptations of estuarine organisms. That is adaptive features of estuarine organisms. White mangrove. White mangrove, they have breathing roots. White mangrove has breathing roots to permit intake of atmospheric air, and their leaves can excrete salt. Their leaves can excrete salt. Then the red mangrove has stilt roots to enable it to withstand strong ocean winds. To enable it to withstand strong ocean winds. Then it's also to ensure development of the seedling and to avoid being swept off by ocean currents. So these stilt roots enable them to withstand strong ocean winds, to ensure development of the seedling and to avoid being swept off by ocean currents. Some seeds germinate on the parent plants. Those are another adaptive feature. Some of the seeds germinate on the parent plants. Now let's look at the adaptive features of animals. Crabs have air-breathing lungs-like structures. Crab, they have air-breathing lungs-like structures for breathing. And we have starfish. Starfish have tube feet to hold fast to rock. Then barnacles and starfish, they have shell. They have shell-like covering to protect them from drying up. Now let's evaluate ourselves before we round up. You can see I want you to list some organisms of brackish water. List some organisms of brackish water. That is both plant and animals that are found in the brackish water or estuarine water. Then I want you to write each of the adaptation of plants and animals in estuarine habitats. Now, assignment for you. Write a short note on the types of estuarine with examples. Thank you.